Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the fourth episode of Perspectives, a third-party political talk show. Bill Redpath of the Libertarian Party and David Rych of the Green Party. That's me. That's Bill. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you, David?
I'm doing fabulous. It's a beautiful day. We got past that heat wave. God, it was brutal.
Yeah,
I
it was.
do gardening as one of my gigs, and man, was that awful.
Yes.
But I mean, it's global. It's everywhere. It's in the flooding and everything else. Yeah, like really bad things are going on. Eventually, we're going to have to talk about climate change. You know that, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, not today. Today, we're going to talk mostly about Social Security and the war on drugs. Two things I've given a lot of thought to, and clearly Bill Redpath has as well, because those were the two, at least, main topics or issues that kind of really got him into the libertarian ideology and party in the first place in the 80s. Correct? Do you want to kind of give us a summation of that whole, what happened there?
Oh, yeah. Well, it was something, probably it happened in the 1990s where I was, when I first heard it, somebody said, he says, everyone joins the Libertarian Party because of two issues.
Oh, right.
And I said, that's right, I did. And it's not the same two issues.
But there are two issues, right.
The two issues for them. And I said, that's right. He says, what were your two issues? I said, Social Security and the war on drugs. All right. Those were the two issues where, and I think that part of it was, I joined in 1984 with the LP. And I think it had to do with the 1983 rescue of Social Security, whereby they didn't really reform the system. They increased, they shored the current system up financially, but they really didn't make fundamental changes to it. And that's what really, and by then I knew that Social Security, I mean, at the time I was 26, I think, when I joined the LP. And that's when I knew by that time that Social Security was a horrible system and a total ripoff for young people. And the fact that they didn't make fundamental changes in 1983 was a stimulus for me to join the LP. No question.
Yeah, no, so I remember that. It was Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, who was Speaker of the House at the time, Democrat, and of course Reagan being a Republican, like the icon of Republicans at the time. And they kind of would go out and kind of bicker back and forth about how to save Social Security. Now, do you recall what was wrong? What did they hack? What was the salvage of it for?
Well, just to maintain the ability to make benefit payments. I mean, it was there was definitely a payroll tax increase. I think there was a tax rate increase, and then every year the wage base gets bumped up by the inflation percentage year by year by year. So that it was going to go belly up a lot faster than it's going belly up now. I'll put it that way.
I just looked mine up a couple days ago, to see what was going on. I made my 40 by 35 points or whatever it is to kind of get into the program. There's some sort of ratio that they use for time worked and money taxed and that kind of thing. And it's something like 35 points. Do I have that right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm
There's some sort of baseline that you have to get past in order to even qualify at all. If you don't work your whole life, you don't get anything.
Yeah, you know what? I actually read a book. This rings a bell, but you know what? It's been 2 or 3 years where I actually read the book Social Security for Dummies, and this rings a bell, but I've forgotten a lot of the details.
Oh, I'm sure it's an extremely complex,
I know
complicated system.
It is complicated, and I know there are these things called breakpoints, which I can't begin to even describe exactly, but there are all sorts of technical aspects to Social Security,
right.
And it's very complicated. And then they try to claw back. Sometimes they pay people too much, and then years later go back to these individuals and say, "Oh, you owe us $100,000."
Okay. And here you go.
Yeah, really. It's something like that. And a lot of stories. There is a Boston University economist by the name of Lawrence Kotlikoff. And he seems to be pretty busy with various podcasts. And he actually was an independent candidate for president back, was it 2016, 2012, 2016, something like that. and his website is kotlikoff.net. And he has a program that he sells. I think it's very inexpensive, called Maximize My Social Security. But there are various. His is probably an excellent website. I have a lot of respect for the man. And but Maximize My Social Security is a place where people, I think, it's probably the best place to go to try to plan your Social Security benefits to your maximum benefit. But he has a plan. But he says basically Social Security is bankrupt. The United States government is bankrupt if you look at the long-term projections. But with respect to Social Security, he has a plan whereby everybody would basically you would freeze the system right now, or freeze people's accrued benefits based on their current situation. And so people who are, I'm 65, people about my age would be pretty much grandfathered into the current system. But people who would be very young, their benefits would be frozen. So in the future, they would get very little Social Security benefits. But in the future, instead of having this pay-as-you-go system, whereby today's benefits immediately go out, or excuse me, today's taxes immediately go out as benefits to beneficiaries, he would have the Social Security taxes go into individual accounts and all invested the same way in sort of a global index fund that would invest a global index based on stocks from the United States and internationally, bonds from the United States and internationally. Everybody would receive the same return because everybody would be invested, their taxes would be invested in the same index fund. And so, and then they would take out the benefits in the future when they would need them. But these would be private accounts for people, all right? And they would have personal property rights. I mean, that's the one thing about Social Security. The dirty little secret of Social Security is nobody has personal property rights in their Social Security benefits. What the payments that you make are taxes. They're not really contributions into an account in your name. They are taxes. And tomorrow, the Congress could decide to do away with Social Security, but they could legally do away with Social Security benefits tomorrow. Of course, that's not going to happen politically, but they have the legal power to do that. So, and completely end people's benefits. And then it's bad also for people who, minorities, people who tend to live less long. I had one of my best friends passed away unexpectedly at the age of 64 a couple years ago, and probably he never took Social Security, and his sons were too old to get survivor's benefits, and his wife, his wife got some benefits. He was separated from his wife, but she probably got some benefits, but he probably never did for all his Social Security taxes, and his sons probably, I don't think, ever will either.
That's interesting. So I know one of the things that changed in 1983, was like, and I learned this when my father died about 8.5 years ago, that my mother only got, besides his like military thing, he was in Vietnam, but like as far as Social Security went, they took the lesser of the two, my mother and my father's, and got rid of the lesser one, and she got only one.
Okay.
I think it was his. So before that, each individual person accrued Social Security markers, points, whatever. Again, it wasn't a personal account. That's a much better idea now that I think about it. Is that they changed it so, like, in order to save it, they had to just get rid of one of the spouses. Like, if one of the spouses dies, instead of getting two, the spouse who died and the one that's living and still retired, you only got one.
Okay, right.
Which is super crappy, because they both worked for it. Okay,
right.
You know what I'm saying? So that's bad. I think they upped the taxes, or maybe they just at that point initiated you have to pay taxes on your Social Security monthly, as if it's an income.
Right.
Which is not an income. It was taken from your income.
Right.
You're getting taxed twice.
The Social Security benefits are taxable. I think 85% of it's taxable, something like that.
Oh my God.
No. So
yeah, no, it's a dumb deal. It really is. Now, the unfortunate part of it now is that, like, you saying Congress could, but Congress won't. Like I remember Biden in his address a few months ago, whatever, said, "Well, the Republicans talking about getting rid of Social Security." And here I'm like, no, 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 no. Because I guess like it's like taboo to even suggest it.
Right. Well, I mean,
go ahead, sorry.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I mean, it's just it. Everybody gets it. I mean, whether they need the money or not, everybody gets it, and a lot of the recipients really don't need the money, and so that's just I think that's another flaw in the program. But I think it was intentionally designed that way to maximize political support for the program.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like it would be so bad for a lot of people if they just got rid of it like immediately.
Oh yeah,
instead of waiting it. What are they calling it? A sunset, something or other? Is that what the lingo is?
I beg your pardon?
I think that the lingo for like trying to get away from Social Security is called like a sunset issue or something like that. Like kind of let it fade over time, so you're not like just wailing on like hundreds of millions of people that need it.
Well, yeah, I mean it would be cataclysmic for millions of people. So Social Security were ended immediately.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But I was going to say one other thing that happened today. Of course, the Donald Trump indictment for January 6th was handed down today. But something else, not as big in the news, but not surprising, was the downgrade today. I don't know whether you saw Fitch Ratings downgraded the credit rating of the United States government today. And from, I don't know, AAA to AA plus or something like that. And but Social Security is a part of that problem. It's a signal to the United States government that your credit is slipping, basically, and the debt ceiling brouhahas have a lot to do with that. But basically, as Kotlikoff says, the U.S. government is bankrupt by any measure. When you look at the present value of future receipts versus future expenditures, it's way out of balance.
Oh, I haven't seen the numbers, but I easily believe that. The government's so inefficient when it comes to spending. Real quick, I see that there's at least a few people watching right now. There's a comment section on the right there. If you see it, if you want to ask any questions, make any comments, just, be nice. I would love to attend to any questions, comments, concerns you have about anything. That'd be great. Or just kick back and watch. So Okay. I'm thinking of something that Noam Chomsky said. He didn't believe that there was a Social Security problem, but I never found out why. And I've heard that from other people. And
the program is
like it's fine. But I don't know what the arguments are, so I probably shouldn't even brought that up. I don't even know where to go with it.
It's fine for 10 years.
Okay.
But the problem is right now is in, I believe it's 2033. It changes every year. There's a new report that comes out from the Social Security Program trustees. And the latest version says that about the end of 2033, the trust fund will run dry. And what is the trust fund? It's a bunch of IOUs where for years Social Security ran a surplus. And so what happened was, with that surplus of cash was sent over to the regular federal government, so to speak, the general fund of the federal government. And these IOUs came into the Social Security system. And so Social Security had these surpluses. They were kicking out cash, getting IOUs in return. Since 2009, it's been running in a deficit. So they've had to kick out these. You've had the payroll taxes coming in, but then to pay out all the benefits promised, they have to return these IOUs to the general fund to get cash back to pay the benefits to all the beneficiaries. Well, in about 10 years, that pile of IOUs is going to dwindle down to nothing. There will be no IOUs to cash in from the general federal government. And it's at that point under the law that then they have to reduce benefits to just the amount covered by the incoming payroll taxes. And that benefit cut is estimated to be about 20%. I've heard 23%, something like that would be the permanent benefit cut. and they can go on paying then 75 to 80% of the promised benefits, but that would be it, unless they change the law and just say, oh, well, we'll fund Social Security out of the general fund, right? And so we won't have to worry about that anymore, which of course does not, address the long run problem. It just, all that does is erase end a bookkeeping problem, so to speak. But it doesn't address the larger problem of the affordability of the promised benefits in the future.
Oh, the government exists to kick the can down the road. That's all it really does. It's right. Always very short-term solutions. It's really, which is a bad idea.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. I know another thing too that they have done. Like I remember, I don't know if it's always. I don't remember what the age was when it started, because the mortality rate has changed over time. It's gone up. And Social Security started what, 98, 33, 34, something like that?
It was 35.
35. Okay, so in the 30s.
And it was in the 30s, yeah.
And it was some sort of like attempt, like with the disaster of the Great Depression, which we can get into that sometime, because that was all government, not bank crap too. But there was like, again, the government attempting to make sure that the citizens were okay financially. Go ahead, sorry, you can say something.
No, go ahead.
No. It's like, my point is, like, I don't know what the age, like, if it was like 55 back. I have no idea. I do know, like, growing up, I remember it being 63 for a while.
Well, then it went to 65. The retirement age is raised.
Right.
The later you're born, and I think it may. I don't know if it actually goes to 70. I was born in 1957, so my Social Security retirement age is 66 and a half.
I think the typical age, okay, so the last time I saw it was like, well, when I was looking at mine, like if I retired at 63, in 10 years, that's going to go. I get like $1,000 a month. If I retired at 65, I would get like 1,800. 67 is like the time to retire where you get the full benefit.
Well, right. That would be, that may be the case for you. Early retirement is at 62. Gotcha. So you take a reduction in benefit at 62, and then your benefit increases to your full benefit at your retirement age, but then they continue raising the monthly benefit until age 70. Okay, so some people wait until age 70 then, but it does not pay to wait beyond 70. If you don't take, there is no increase in future benefits after you turn 70. So at that point, it only makes sense to start claiming benefits at the age of 70. Because if you wait until 71, you're not going to get a higher monthly benefit than at 70.
Unless you just really want to work.
Well, even if you want to work, I mean, it would make sense to take the benefit.
Oh, I thought there was a regulation on like how much you can work after you start taking benefits.
You can work. The question is about you can work anytime, as long as you want.
Oh, okay.
But it does not make sense at all to claim benefits for Social Security after the age of 70.
Gotcha. Okay. I thought I was under a misunderstanding, I guess, that like, once you start collecting your Social Security, like if you're working more than whatever, I don't know, 20 hours a week, you don't get it, or you get less of it because you're working. I mean, like, this is a retirement.
I'm not aware. That may be, okay. But I'm not aware of that.
Okay. Very cool. So yeah, no, it's interesting to say it in the best possible way, to see what's going to happen with this. Like, it's just another thing to pile on top of all the crap that's going on, all the hopelessness and futility. I think that a lot of people in this country are sensing on so many different levels, scales, and different aspects, sociopolitically and economically. Like this, I don't know. The next 10 years just seems like it's going to be a lot of really nasty stuff. So we'll see.
Yeah.
There are. If you go on YouTube, there are literally, they're called doomers, and they're all like predicting all these terrible things. I had one on the Illinois Green Party series, Reagan Paratron or something like that, and he's more about like climate change and stuff like that. We're not going to talk about that yet, but like he's like, no, it's over. So, but there are all the people on there doing things like financially, socially, like all the social tensions and culture wars going on, and the cops and stuff like that. No, there's a lot of, if you go on YouTube, just type in doomers, you'll see all sorts of macabre, depressing stuff. But don't let that affect you. Try to stay happy. All right. So, well, did you want to say anything else about Social Security? You want to go on a war on drugs?
Yeah, that's really about it. I just think that I just think that personally, I supported a plan when I ran, and it was I've been an 8-time candidate for public office, and 2020 U.S. House in the 6th Congressional District in Illinois, in 2022 U.S. Senate in Illinois, and I supported the Cato Institute 6.2% plan, which basically means that people over the age of 55 are grandfathered into the plan, into the current system, that is. But underneath that, people can opt out of the Social Security system and receive a bond, tradable bond for what they put in. But then they can start contributing to private accounts. But if they do this, they waive their right to future Social Security benefits. They do get something for what they put in the tradable bond, but it basically would allow people, the upshot of it would allow people to invest in private accounts, and the return on stocks historically has been much better in stock investment or even bonds, much better, because the rate of return for people paying their Social Security taxes and then getting benefits in the future has been negligible. It's extremely low, and it would just make more sense economically for people to have their Social Security taxes put into private accounts. They control how it's invested. They're almost certainly going to come out with a more comfortable retirement, financially anyway. And I really, that's the thing to go. And again, they would have personal property rights in those accounts, as opposed to the current system where they do not have personal property rights.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. I never really thought about that. That's not your personal account. It's just
no.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, that's interesting, and like, it's making me think of like insurance, like health insurance. And like, I can't do anything about it now because of my current situation. But I just found this out like last year, because I was working with somebody, and for whatever reason, I asked her about like health insurance. She's like, "Yeah, I have it. It's like 150." I'm like, "How much is it?" She's like, "It's about $150 a month." I'm like, "Oh, is it like the worst insurance ever?" She's like, "No, the deductible is $15,000." And I thought about it, I'm like, that's actually not that bad. Like, if you got into, like, it covers, as far as I understand, if I remember correctly, her insurance covered just about everything, if not everything. And like, I'm like, well, okay, that's interesting. It's like, if you got like really, really injured or sick or whatever else, $15,000 wouldn't break you. You know, they're going to allow you to do a payment plan probably of some sort. I mean, that kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, just again, the government doing it versus like you doing it. Or the private sector doing it, people doing it for each other instead of like this, like nameless, faceless, idiot politicians. Yeah, it's really interesting, and the more I go along, the more I understand about these things. Again, like I said before, I've never really liked government, but I always figured like if we're going to have one, that it should do certain things. And generally, I still think that, but I'd rather get rid of the stupid thing in the first place. All right, anyway, so let's. Speaking of terrible things that governments do, let's talk about the war on drugs. So, what prompted that back in the day?
It just seemed to me ridiculous that marijuana was illegal, and the entire concept of consensual crimes just seems to me ridiculous. And it was just like nobody learned anything from Prohibition. I don't know what it is. I mean, I was once talking with a woman. I was standing outside a polling place one day, I think, campaigning, handing out literature for Libertarian Party candidate. And she says, well, she was defending Prohibition. She says, well, it should be prohibited. It should be against the law because we don't want it out on the street. And I said, why do you think it's out on the street? I mean, that's why it's out on the street. Is it's illegal
instead of in a properly functioning, legal, explicit, vivid dispensary.
I was just amazed. It was she it was magical thinking that government had power to accomplish certain things that it didn't have. And so this was just something that what I said to her didn't register. I can tell you that. And so I really don't know the thinking behind. I mean, yes, a lot of these substances are horrible, but do you think we would have the fentanyl crisis right now but for drug prohibition? No way. No way.
Like absolutely not.
Yeah. And so it's I just shake my head. Now, I mean, where would I draw the line? I would draw the line, certainly if a drug, let's say it, by its pharmacological nature, engendered violent behavior,
like PCP.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm not sure.
PCP is nasty. You don't hear about it because it's like 0.001% or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you absolutely, if people acted violently due to the nature of a drug, then yeah, it should be illegal. We can't have somebody taking a drug and chopping up half the people in the neighborhood.
Right.
But yeah, it can't be bad.
Like so, meth is like that. Like it makes you instantly like, oh.
It's I just I don't know. Now, once you hit a certain age, which I've more than hit probably. I mean, I'm 65. I'm 65 now.
You look great.
Pardon?
You look great.
Well, thank you. It's I eat my Wheaties once in a while. But in any event, the whole thing is I've passed the point where I'm interested in all sorts of things. There are certain, like, there's no way I would touch a billion drugs out there right now because I'm 65 and I just wouldn't even. I like martinis and I like a glass of wine, and really anything else right now I'm like, no way. I wouldn't want to take the risk. And there's a lot of risk. I mean, in a black market out there, obviously there's a lot of risk.
Yeah, no, because now they're like, I remember Mark Rubio from Florida said when it was asked about legalizing marijuana, he said, no, marijuana is being laced with fentanyl. Now, of course, the response to that is, well, that's why you would make it legal. Like you just contradicted yourself. It's ridiculous. Right. So because you're not going to get that from a legal process.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, would Philip Morris, and my understanding is I heard this at one point, so this is I think it's true, whatever, but I remember I heard something at one point where Philip Morris had the copyright for Marley's I think they obtained the copyright. Again, I could be wrong. This is a story here. They obtained the copyright because maybe legal marijuana cigarettes might be branded Marley's.
Which, I mean, stands to reason.
Yeah. So
I haven't seen that yet. Maybe people aren't calling it Marley's specifically to keep the martyrs off their backs. I don't know either.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I heard that.
Okay, that's very possible. I mean, Bob Marley was definitely a pot smoker. So I've heard, like big joints called Marley's before. I've heard that. So it's out there. It's a thing. That's interesting. So I mean, the thing is that like, alcohol, for example, and alcohol is, generally, I think fine. I was a bartender. I drink beer on occasion, here and there. But pharmacologically, like you're saying, like it is like just 1,000 times more harmful, injurious, and dangerous than pot ever could be. I mean, it's just so much worse. You don't. I wrote a paper in college on the effects of marijuana and the death rate. And the death rate at the time, I don't know if it's changed, was literally zero. No, nobody at that point had ever died from marijuana related anything. No, zero. And I'm not trying to pick on alcohol. Again, I drink. I don't mind drinking. I think drinking is fun, actually, if you do it responsibly.
I agree with that.
I enjoy a good buzz on occasion, but one of the arguments you hear about marijuana is that it's considered a gateway drug, and it is a gateway drug. All drugs are gateway drugs.
Well, exactly. I mean, alcohol. I mean, if marijuana is, and alcohol and tobacco are too.
That's what I was going to say. So, I mean, I've done some research on this, and it turns out, like, first of all, people don't understand the actual definition or what a gateway drug is. A gateway drug is a drug that people tend to do. We've actually talked about this. Tend to do before they go on to a harder drug. So it's not like this. It's not a causal thing. It's correlational. Some people do. In fact, they did studies that most people who smoke pot never even try anything harder. They're just kind of happy with that, or maybe they drink. But like that being said, that a gateway drug is that you tend to go on, do that before you tend to go on to a harder drug. So therefore, the number one gateway drug is beer.
Yeah.
Most people start drinking beer before they do anything else.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, that would
but
be.
Nobody in Congress would be like, because they want to drink beer.
Well,
maybe
DeSantis is going to start calling Bud Light a gateway drug.
A gateway drug?
Gateway drug.
No, I know, I'm making a joke.
Oh, yeah, the gateway drug. Okay. Oh, exactly.
Yeah, no, that whole thing blew up into nonsense, didn't it? I mean, obviously you have the right to buy or not buy any products, but it seemed a little disproportionate to okay, they put a pro-pride thing. Who cares this shit? I mean, why are you so like the Catholic Church protested the Dodgers game because they had a pride flag or something? Did you hear about that?
What was that?
Like a month or so ago, there was a bunch of Catholics outside Dodger Stadium in LA protesting because the Dodgers had like a Pride Day or something like that.
Well, it's more complicated than that.
Okay.
There was a particular group, and I forget the name of the group. It was more complicated than that. There was a particular group, and I think the Dodgers waffled. They invited them, and then they disinvited this group, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name. And then they switched again, I believe, and invited them, and it wasn't just that there was a pride event at the Dodgers game. There was more to it than that.
Okay, something more nefarious.
It was a group. I forget what they were called, but it might have. I'm sorry. I honestly don't recall.
Okay, we can't speak to it. That's fine.
I can't. I don't recall the details.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, but again, you hear Westboro Baptist Church. You heard of them standing outside.
Oh yeah, I've heard of them.
God hates fags.
Oh my
just
God.
What a bunch of terrible people.
I mean, where they show up and protest is completely out of line. It's
extremely out of line.
Vulgar.
Yeah, and just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should. Just so you know that there's a huge difference between can and should, by the way.
Right.
Okay. So if you're a moral agent, I think you would be consider your behavior a little bit more deeply than just sort of this knee-jerk reaction to things that probably aren't even true, or in that sense even biblical. I mean, I'm not a Christian by any stretch, but I mean, I've read the Bible, I've studied it considerably. I don't remember that part. I remember it doesn't prefer the lifestyle, but I don't remember him saying he hates them.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so the war on drugs, and just of course so just besides the basic arguments against the war on drugs, especially marijuana, it's not nearly as dangerous as you think it is. Alcohol is a lot more dangerous and harmful, but so you're cherry picking there, which is not okay. You're supposed to be applying objective standards to people because it's supposed to range over all people, but then the war itself on drugs, I mean, just the amount of damage we've done in South and Central America concerning sending in military to get cartels and stuff like that. And the cartels are nasty dudes. Sure. They are nasty people. Yeah. They put severed heads on bridges, to scare the local community. They are bad people. I am not condoning this at all.
Right.
But there's also this disproportion between what we're trying to accomplish and what we actually accomplish. I mean, we meaning the United States military. I've known people who were in the military who went on missions down there, and some of the stories they told me are horrifying, absolutely horrifying. How they would like go into villages and stuff like that and just like ransack people's houses and, arrest people like they don't even know who they are just because they might be affiliated with a cartel, maybe. Right. I mean, all sorts of injustices and just terrible things.
Exactly. And this is, again, an artifact of the war on drugs. Yeah. There wouldn't be these cartels if there wasn't a war on drugs. And now you've got tough-talking Republicans talking about taking military action in Mexico against these cartels. What? I mean, it's completely ridiculous. And it's just part of their, they want to project power just for the sake of power.
Yeah, no, just we're still number one, right?
It's absolutely ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and I know that like part of the reasoning for like the immigration policies or the walls and stuff like that is the war on drugs. That there's too many drug users are coming, and like so like the fentanyl thing, for example. Like I guess like as far as the distribution, the higher distribution is coming from China. Have you heard that?
No, I have not.
Yes. So that is what I heard. I mean, I can't cite you the source, but I've certainly heard that many times. That they're sort of like fueling the market of fentanyl into the country, and it probably coming from, I shouldn't say the Chinese government. I don't know about that, but it's coming like it's supposed to be like Chinese mafia or gangs that are doing that kind of thing. So it's not necessarily, mostly at least, Central or South America, and it's just like the things we've done in the Middle East and Afghanistan. A lot of it had to do with the opium fields.
Right.
And burning those down. And like, that was like a central part of their, again, I don't know what to say about the morality of it. I don't know, but you're like destroying entire like local economies because, you don't like, poppy seeds, that kind of thing. And it seems like there are better ways to go about it. Yeah.
Yes, I agree that it's caused a lot of problems in Mexico, it's a situation that the Republican candidates for president, all to a person, all seem to want to throw gasoline on the situation when the opposite path should be taken.
Agreed, and it goes back to the same thing, like about like is it even worthwhile to ban these things, to make them illegal when, like you mentioned before, people are, if they supply and demand. Look, if somebody wants it, they're going to get it.
Right.
Okay. I've smoked pot since I was in high school, and I have not one time ever had a problem getting it, ever. Okay. So I mean, it only became illegal a few years ago here in Illinois. And I've done other drugs. I mean, I had my heyday for sure, and I never had a problem. I mean, just so I mean, nothing higher than like so I've never done like a heroin or PCP or anything like that. But your usual stuff, yeah, never had a problem. I could probably pick up my phone right now and get anything I want. I'm not going to, because like you said, like I mean, those days are gone. I still smoke some pot here and there, but I mean that's at the end of my day when I don't do anything. I don't go out, just kind of relax. But yeah, so I don't. Like, I know that Biden and Harris, like one of their campaign promises was to decriminalize marijuana on the federal level, and I don't know about. I mean, like I know that it's possible that they ran into obstacles because of like the Republican majority in the Senate, but or is it the House? Which one is it?
The Republican majority in the House.
The House. But I haven't heard of them even like trying yet. Have you heard anything?
No, it's whatever they're doing is way too inadequate. I mean, they could just, and the problem is then that the federal prohibition still affects businesses in states where marijuana is legal, because it leads to banking problems. I mean, they've had situations now where they have to deal in cash, and these marijuana dispensaries get robbed. And so these marijuana businesses in states where it's legal can't get proper banking services because of the federal prohibition. And then I just read also recently that radio stations can't accept ads for marijuana dispensaries.
Oh, I didn't know that. I heard the first
one. Big problem. Basically, the message in this industry article that I saw was, don't do it. You really can't do it under FCC. Yeah. So that was the essence of it. It may be a little more nuanced than that, but basically it was.
Right, no, that makes sense because the FCC. You know what FCC stands for?
I bet you're going to tell me.
Fascists of Collective Consciousness.
Well, I'm sure there are other
No,
bet
that's
there's
obviously
others as well.
joke, but I mean, like,
Other,
because they try to control when you try to control language and word usage. That's my attempt at mind control. I get it's a subtle level. It's not like they're brainwashing us, but I mean, any attempt. Look, man, I'm on 98.3 FM, WRLR. I'm on the radio a lot, and it just drives me nuts that I can't swear. Like it's it's a petty. You gotta pick your arguments, but like, why?
exactly.
Like it's stupid. Like they could like if I drop the F-bomb too much and the FCC hears about it, they could shut us down.
Watch video, you stream videos and podcasts these days, right. And there are so many podcasts, mainstream podcasts, where people cuss a little bit. Right. Anybody can go, any kid can walk up, and it's not going to be parent protected or controlled or anything like that.
And honestly, I remember learning swear words when I was like in first grade, maybe even like, I mean, come on.
Well, you were a smart kid.
I was. But like, I mean, I just, my friends and I would swear. I mean, we thought, of course we thought we were cool because we could drop the F-bomb. But I'm like, this whole protecting children from what? It's a word. It's a word. It has meaning. So like, if I say, F you, that has a negative connotation. But if I say F yes, that has a positive connotation. It's celebratory. Yeah. What's the problem? I mean, I can't say the F word on air, but I can say I hate you. Which one is more devastating? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, like, hatred's far more dangerous than the F-bomb. I'm trying to make one example.
Yeah. By the way, I don't know whether you heard about this. There is a Republican congressman, and I forget his name off the top of my head, from Wisconsin, who went into a profanity-laced tirade in front of some pages or something. And apparently this was caught on video. But he was in a close race. I'm sorry, he was a Republican congressman from Wisconsin, anyway, he apparently launched into this tirade that included a bunch of F-bombs. Well, the Democratic Party says, this is going to be good for us.
Yeah.
In the 2024 re-election campaign.
Yeah, no, exactly. And to even like, attend to that at all, as a political opponent is just, it's trite, it's petty, it's meaningless. Like, okay, why he swore, but you don't swear? Who doesn't swear?
Well, yes, that's very, very few people don't swear. But if he was launching into a tirade at a bunch of young people, that's
I can see that that level of politics. I can see people jumping on that for absolutely. Yeah. They use anything they can. Yeah. Which is a problem in itself because not everything is worth that sort of attention or has that sort of gravity. It's just a fucking word. All right, I said
it. Well, hopefully we're not on TV.
Anyway, war on drugs, bad. And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, I mean, the sweep across the nation in a lot of ways of marijuana becoming medicinally legal and then even recreationally legal. I think even in the last election, a couple more states picked it up. I feel like there was a couple out east that did. I don't remember. I think we're just going to get to the point in the near future where marijuana is probably going to be decriminalized, at least decriminalized. Decriminalization is not the same thing as being legal, by the way, just so everybody knows that. Decriminalization means that it's no longer like a criminal offense. It's more like a civil offense. So you can get a fine, but you can't go to jail kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Being legal means nothing bad can happen to you. You can't. Right. There's no legal anything. Okay. What?
Be like alcohol.
Right. You're still not allowed to be on it and drive. You're still not like. Right. I mean, I know that you're not even allowed to like sit outside your house and smoke pot right now. Oh, okay. I know it's weird too, but okay.
I didn't know that. Are you saying that in Illinois right now, where we both live,
yes,
pot is legal, but you can't sit outside and smoke it?
You can't do it in public view.
Really? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If
you get it at the dispensary and drive it home, that's fine, but it has to be in the original container and sealed while it's in your car. Once you open up that seal, you can not take it anywhere at all. And like again, some of these regulations are just kind of dumb. Like they don't make any sense.
Well, they're just screwing up legalization, basically. I mean,
Right.
California and New York, these places where it's legal, they've built in a system where the black market still thrives because of all the regulations involved.
Right.
You think that, I'm not sure how it's priced, mind you, in the legal market, but I don't believe in sin taxes. I mean, I think that if there is, I'm going to sound nerdy here, but if there is, and if I guess it's probably already have all for the first 45 minutes. But in any event, but I mean, if there are negative externalities, so to speak, with drug use, it ought to be included in the price of the drug. All right. I don't think that the drug use should, the users of a drug ought to pay for the negative effects on society, if any. But I don't think there should just be a sin tax on there, like, we're going to sock it to these, pot users because that's, we don't like it, and we're going to sock them with taxes here and make them pay and cry financially. That's not a good.
No, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just, again, like you're doing it just because you can, because you don't, you just don't like the kinds of people. I wonder, like the extent to which, like, when marijuana became illegal, because it was, the first like possession law was against opium in the 1880s, I believe, in California, and it had everything to do with the fact that the Chinese community was doing it. I mean, a lot of this stuff has some racial underpinnings.
Oh yeah, for sure, definitely with pot.
Yeah, marijuana is a Spanish term, so a lot of the migrants were coming in, they were using it. And who else back in the day when pot finally became illegal? Well, there's some things too about like the higher, like some companies or industries concerning like lumber and timber and stuff like that, because like hemp was coming up as like being known as like the next thing that was going to replace those things, because hemp is a remarkably resilient and efficient plant. How many talk about THC? The things you can do with like hemp is unbelievable. Then the oil from the seeds is super productive, and there's all sorts of things. But like, again, like another thing too was like, who was smoking pot back in the day was the migrants from Mexico and jazz musicians, who were mostly black people. So there's always that sort of racial stigma, especially back in those days. That was easy to do back then, harder to do now, hopefully. So like that, and that's so like just the underpinning of the process of it is disturbing.
Yeah, no, it's I agree.
Yeah. So people are arguing that. They're arguing that in to the government, like, hey, this is all racist based bullshit. Sorry, but you gotta see, you gotta like get rid of this. I think I broke the seal, so I gotta watch myself. I enjoy swearing. I'm sorry, I do, but I'm Italian. I'm very passionate. Yeah. So anyway, I really hope it goes away, the stigma and the, like, we in Mundelein, where I grew up, the town right next door to me where I live now, I live in Grays Lake. They have a dispensary they opened like right after it became legal, and then you saw the local surrounding communities, Vernon Hills, Gurnee, Grays Lake, like the boards all turned it down. It's like, okay, fine, Mundeleine's making like millions of dollars a year easily in tax revenue. I mean, that place is just packed. It's awesome. And so mine is like, cool, we'll take all the money. But like there's my point is like there's still some stigma amongst the village and city boards or councils that marijuana is this bad thing, and how dare you legalize it? We're not going to have that in our community. Well, again, that's just sort of ridiculous, nonsensical thinking, because now I can just drive 10 minutes away to Mundelein and get it. Right. There's no damn thing you can do about it, but you're not going to make any money.
Well, it's already there. I mean, it's just they want. I mean, they don't want to give the immature. No, help me with my vocabulary.
Impropriety?
No, anyway, I'm terrible.
I do that all the time.
The ESL classes aren't going too well, I guess.
You have a fabulous vocabulary.
But in any event, the imprimatur, I want to say, maybe is that the word I'm thinking of?
Yeah, no, that's the word.
Imprimatur. I don't know. It's already there. I mean, there's a black market out there. It's already there. And if so, what if you have to keep it in a container and it's sealed, and you've got to take it home before you open up the container? What difference does it make that there's a marijuana dispensary in your town? You know, I mean, so what? And the people who want the pot are going to, you know, drive over to, where did you say, Mundelein or something? And okay. And so I just don't say it. You know, it all comes back. When I was a Libertarian candidate for governor in 2001 in Virginia, and the campaign slogan was anything that's peaceful. And with me, that's really the bottom line on whether an activity should be legal or not. Is it peaceful? And smoking pot and using other drugs, unless you are hurting someone or their property, is a peaceful activity. And you may not like it. It may not be healthy. It may not be constructive. It could be a bad habit. But approaching those issues through the force of law is not proper.
I totally agree with
totally that. Counterproductive. So I don't know. I just don't get it.
And we didn't even spoken like, you know, the most fundamental libertarian aspect of all this whole thing is bodily autonomy.
Right.
You know, it's none of your damn business what I do with my body.
Right.
Okay. Unless I hurt somebody else, shut up. Leave me alone.
And what you do, I mean, it should be between you, and a lot of things ought to be, frankly, between people and their insurance companies. Like I don't know. I'm not a motorcycle person. All right.
I am. I don't currently own one, but I have a motorcycle's license. I plan on getting one soon. Okay.
Well, I remember when I was a little kid, I kind of got soured on motorcycles. The first time I ever rode them on a motorcycle, nobody told me, and I did not know that the exhaust pipe was hot.
Oh,
and I brushed my leg against the exhaust pipe, and wow, that one incident just kind of soured me on motorcycles for the rest of my life.
And dude, don't get me wrong, I do love motorcycles, but they're very dangerous. Statistically, they're extremely dangerous. And I don't understand why Illinois doesn't have a helmet law. That's weird.
Well, here's the thing. I think that it ought to be between people and their insurance companies.
Well,
I mean, do insurance companies sell insurance? Do they charge a premium if somebody rides without a helmet on motorcycles?
I don't know. In Oregon, like, because I got my license in Oregon, they had a helmet law, so I never really tempted that at all. I never challenged that. I don't know.
Yeah,
motorcycle insurance is extremely low because it's like $50 a month, maybe.
Right.
But I don't know, because it's not a law here. I don't know how they would contend with that. I mean, I don't know that they would have to because or not of the law. Just statistically, the data, I mean, it's like 33% higher chance that you're gonna really mess yourself up on a motorcycle accident if you're not wearing a helmet.
Oh, yeah.
So the numbers are there.
I mean, if people are riding,
a whimsical thing. This is based on fact.
Yeah, I mean, people usually these days, when you see somebody riding a bicycle, they're wearing a helmet.
Which is
when I was growing up, nobody wore a helmet when they were riding a bicycle when I was growing up.
No, we never did, and we wiped out, and we were fine. That's right. That's super geeky.
But in any event, but I just think it ought to be between people and their insurance companies regarding the risk they're allowed to take on a motorcycle. And I would think that the insurance premiums for riding without a helmet would discourage that activity.
That seems like a very safe assumption to me. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. It's something I should look into. I do know, the reason for me, I'm not a speed freak. Most of the guys that I know that ride motorcycles, they just love to go as fast as they can. I have absolutely no desire to be that person. I like a chill ride. I mean, one of the best parts is just sort of like the openness in the air in your face. It's like the feeling of freedom. And it's a wonderful, wonderful feeling. And so you have skull caps. You see kind of the bikers wear these. And in Illinois, you just need glasses to protect your eyes. That seems like a perfectly sufficient thing for me. Even the helmet laws in Oregon didn't mean necessarily a full one. Mm-hmm. That's what I had. But you could have a skull cap as long as you protected your skull. That's the point. Mm-hmm. Your skull hits the ground at 90, you're done. I've lost a couple of friends to motorcycle accidents.
Oh, I have too.
Oh, it's terrible.
I lost a great libertarian friend who was doing a cross-country trip in 2010. And it was July 2010, and he left Tennessee and went out to the West Coast and then up to the Northwest. and he had an accident going up in Glacier National Forest. He was going up a road, and some woman was coming down the road around a curve, and she wasn't on her side of the road, and he died instantly.
That's awful. I'm very sorry about that. The number one cause of motorcycle accidents is other people. Just so
right.
You know. Yeah.
Right.
That's why you see these bumper stickers, be aware of motorcycles, and signs, be aware of motorcycles, that kind of thing, because they don't know. Then like they don't see you because you're so small, you're just tiny. Yeah. You can fit into the blind spot very easily.
But if you're driving on the wrong side of a road on a hilly mountain, yeah, of course. What am I saying? Hilly mountain, but it was. Yeah. So again, back to the ESL class, but if you're driving on the wrong side of the road, there's going to be a problem sooner or later.
Yeah, motorcycle or otherwise. What if that was a semi instead of a motorcycle? She'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm really that's awful. 6:55. All right. I wish I would have my Cubs hat. You've been paying attention to what's going on? Hey, we had a 7-game winning streak. What?
Yeah, are they still on that winning streak?
No, they lost Sunday.
Okay.
And I don't know about yesterday or today, to be honest with you. But they were whipping them, man. They beat the Sox. They were beating the Cardinals, our two main rivals. That was fabulous.
Well, they're fortunate. The Cubs are fortunate to be in a pretty weak division. I mean, just like the White Sox were fortunate to be in a weak division, but now their record has deteriorated to 42 and 63 or something. But the one thing now in baseball that, when I was a kid growing up, I was a huge baseball fan, and I probably when I was in late elementary or early junior high school, I bet I could have named 75 or 80% of the roster of every major league team. There's no way there's no way that I could do that today. But you didn't have this trading deadline, the blitz of deals before a trading deadline, where all the personnel gets shuffled because some teams are building up, and I can't say categorically it's a bad thing, but it just doesn't strike me as right. It just doesn't strike me as for the long-term benefit of Major League Baseball that this late July trading frenzy occurs every year.
Oh, I agree. No, I think that's been the case ever since that started. I think it was in the 70s when they opened it up to players could just go to another team at whim once the contract was up or whatever else.
Yeah, the reserve clause fell apart in the 70s, I believe. Yes.
And again, I don't see people forced in any way to do something they don't want to do. But there's something about, like you said, the longevity. It takes time for a group of people in any situation to develop that sort of familiarity and the chemistry to work together succinctly and in a particular sort of rhythm, if you will.
Right.
And it's really tragic to see. And a lot of it is all based on just money and really nothing else. Well, if you get rid of this guy, we can buy two more of them, even though they're far lower level players. Blah blah blah. It's all quantity and not quality, and blah blah blah. And I think I've really said this to you before: is I don't understand the reasoning at that level. I don't know why the Bears kept Jay Cutler for so long. It blows my mind. I don't understand that. But they obviously had the reasons, and sometimes I just had to well, they know more about it than I do. I still don't trust it, but I don't know what to say about it. I remember being in Portland, and my buddy and I, he's friends of mine back here, and he lives out there, and we picked up the paper one day, saw that they re-signed Jay Butler. We was like, "What the? Are you kidding me? This is ridiculous."
Right.
All right. So, but the Cubs are doing okay. They're
doing okay right now.
Yeah, they're 6 games out of first.
No, it would be exciting to see postseason action at Wrigley Field. No question about it. They were, at one point, I think I saw recently they were maybe within 3.5 of first place.
It might be different now. I haven't checked it in a week.
Yeah. So, but they're definitely in the race right now. The White Sox, they've dealt so many pitchers. They've dealt, a non-trivial chunk of the team for youngins to develop with them.
Yeah, this whole going back to this whole notion of rebuilding. The rebuilding doesn't count if you're constantly throwing away parts of your building.
Yeah.
So it's a bad word for that whole process.
Right.
But okay, and the Bears, Justin Fields, I guess he's looking good in the offseason. You know, we got DeMarcus Walker. I think they actually sent him out to the Southwest or East. So they put him in like a high elevation to do training, which I thought was a really interesting tactic.
Okay. Well,
I can't describe the physiology. Like I understand, like because you have to breathe heavier, maybe it just strengthens your
altitude, maybe something
pulmonary
like that.
system, so that when you come back to like Chicago, Flatland, Chicago, like you're that much stronger. I don't know, but it's kind of like a really interesting thing. So we'll see what happens there. But Justin Fields is calling for 4,000 rushing or passing yards. 4,000. He's like, I'm going to hit 4,000.
Okay.
I'm like, you know, it's like the Babe Ruth thing, like pointing out there. You know, like good for you, man. That's awesome. I mean, that's a lot.
Football's getting close. Isn't the first? I want to say, isn't the first exhibition game this Thursday evening? Is
it this Thursday? It starts in August.
I think it's Thursday evening. Is the first exhibition game? I'm not certain of that, but I think I saw that.
Man, I love watching football.
I do too.
I love watching football.
I do too. I love watching football.
Yeah, so hopefully, you know, I think Justin Fields has a lot of potential. He sees some of the things he can do or remind me of like Patrick Mahomes, like how he can do the side hand thing and that kind of thing. He runs a lot, which is awesome. Yeah. You know, that's I mean, Colin Kaepernick broke that seal, I think. He was just like, you know, started running all the time. Now you just kind of have to do it unless you're an old school guy like Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady.
Right.
Yeah, that changes the game. And I like innovation in sports like that. I hate stagnation. Right. So that's, you know, up the strategy, challenge the opponent. So they have to do it. It's like Stephen Curry. Like now you have to practice 3-point shots, like because you just can't win without that.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah.
Which I love. I love the evolution of things. I love greatness. I've always said that to my friends. I'm like, I just love greatness in people. And I think that, you know, each person has their own way of doing it and becoming it, and you get to choose whatever you want. But I always love watching the human race individually and collectively grow. I love it. Right. Okay.
I agree.
We might have to extend this to like a 10-minute thing because I could talk more about sports, but we're past the hour here. So we will not be here next week. Bill is going to do some petitioning for ballot access.
Yeah.
Where are you going, Bill?
Toledo, Ohio.
Ooh, Toledo. Very, very exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the place that said that we'll never, ever legalize marijuana? We'll shoot you if you even say the word.
I don't know about that. My understanding is there are some legislators in Ohio that said, nope, we're not going to legalize pot here.
Well, that's why we need to get some good libertarians in there.
That's why we need that and some initiatives and referendum.
Absolutely, 100%. Referendum, like again, just why don't you just make it a referendum? That's like as pure democracy as you can get. Yeah. You know, it's not. You know, there's some cases where that might not be a good idea because you know we have rights, individual rights, and the collective might just want to wail on you. But you know, but I get that. Yeah, anyway, so well, good luck to you then. I really do wish you the best there, everybody. Thank you for tuning into Perspectives. See you next time.